All right, so I want to start creating the project for the capstone. So what I'm going to do first, I'll create a folder. I already have a 3MTT folder here. I have a 3MTT folder in here. So I would come here. I think I created one before. So I've created a folder here, which is Capstone project. You can do yours the same way. So this is the folder I would use. I'll go to my GitHub to go to my GitHub now. Right? Okay. I'll come here and create a repository. What's the name of our repository? Taskmaster. Taskmaster. Right? Okay. Taskmaster application. Okay. Description. Capstone. So I'm gonna do all this stuff. They'll set it to public, add a readme. So set it to public, add a readme. Add git ignore. Not necessary for now. Add git ignore. Choose a license, none. So this public, add readme, everything set. So I'm going to create it. All right. So next is to come here. I would copy this, then go to my Visual Studio. I want to open a Visual Studio, right? So new window, you can open your own Visual Studio, right? Let me will open Visual Studio. Come here, open folder here. Then look for where my desktop, it's in my desktop actually. Then 3MTT, the folder, Capstone project is the folder I want to use. Select the folder. We are good to go. All right. So this is it. So I'm going to open my terminal. I'll come here. Let me expand this terminal, which is here. Open it. New terminal. Okay. New terminal. Wait for it to load. Okay, this is it. Or instead of going using this terminal, let me just close it. I'll close it, come here and close it. I'll do this approach, which is better, right? So this is the folder I am in. This is the folder. So I'm going to right click, then open my terminal here. This is the right way to go about it. So I'll open it. Let me close this other ones here. I don't need it. Yeah, closing them. I don't need it for now. I don't need this for now. All right. So okay, that is it. First and foremost, I need to clone it, right? So to clone from your repository, what you would do is go to your repo, come here, you see the link, you copy it, right? Then the Visual Studio, the terminal rather. This is the terminal. Then git clone, then shift to paste it now, right? Just paste it here. enter. Everything good. I hope it's going to allow me. I don't think it's going to allow me to clone, but let's see. All right, so rename from this to this. Should I try again? Yeah, try again. Okay, so I have the Taskmaster in here, which is already here. So to enter this folder, just do cd and the name Taskmaster to change directory into this and enter. Currently I am in ls to check the list of items in this folder. I have just the readme, which was gotten when I created it. This is it. So I've cloned it to my local machine, right? Good. A second, please. I will be right back. So welcome. Let's proceed. So we're in this Taskmaster folder. I'm gonna go to my Visual Studio where it's been located. Go to my Visual Studio. I have two Visual Studios, so don't bother about this one. It's the second one. All right, so this is it. So I have my Visual Studio. My Taskmaster is here, right? So in here, I'm going to create a folder. No. Just highlight it. I'll create a folder, call it Backend. So everything that has to do with my backend will be in this folder, right? Then my front end from here down will just be basically front end stuff, right? Okay. Okay, so let's set up the backend, installing the necessary packages, right? You can actually be looking through the Capstone project, what do we ask to install. So this is it, right? I need few things. So okay, so I'll be installing Bcrypt and I'll walk you guys how to go about it. So let's go to my backend, right? This is my backend, which is, let me go to my terminal. Just follow the step, follow the process, follow this video and you get lost, right? So this is my Taskmaster right now. Next, I'll do ls to know, check the list of items. Enter. I have the backend folder and this. Now I want to go into this backend. I'll just do cd backend and it takes me into the backend folder. So this is the folder I will install all those backend dependency, right? Cool. First and foremost, I'm going to do npm init to initialize the node, right? Packages init y-y. So it's loading. All right, so I have this been installed and initialized. Let's check ls. So I have the package.json. This is where all our dependencies will be stored. So I have these, the script. Let's check This is my backend now, right? Okay, so I have this now. My main is the index.js, meaning I will have to create a file and call it index.js. So this is saying that when you run your backend, the starting point, the opening, like where you're going to start, the starting file for your backend will be this index.js. That's what this means. This is where it's going to start to connect to all other parts of your backend, right? So I'll just I would create a file and call it index. It has to be the same with your main index.js. So cool. So I have it here, right? Just follow along. Okay. Then next is to install the necessary packages, right? So I will just come here to install the package npm install, and then the name of the package. The first package will be express, then space another package bcrypt bcrypt bcrypt.js. Next one, JSON web token. Next one will be Mongo's token. Mongo's. I'll be using MongoDB for my backend database. Mongo's, then .env, then body parser. For now, I will explain it later. Body parser. So so what else do I need to install? NodeMon. Yeah, NodeMon. I need to install NodeMon. Okay. Let's wait for it to install. All right, so it has been installed already. So we have the following packages that has been installed. If you go to my VS Code package.json, which is here, we will see this is one. We will see it here, bigrid bodyparser.env express. We'll get to know about what this means as we proceed, right? Cool. All right, so the next is setting up our folder structure for the backend. So we need to set them up, right? So first thing first, if you have been reading along, we know what the first model for our backend, for every model, it's just preference. It's the model, right? The first file is folder is the model where we keep all our models and their properties, various properties. So inside this backend, I would create a folder. I will create a folder, call it models, right? So this is it. This will have all files for my models. Then I would create another folder that would hold my controllers. Basically, this will just those basic CRUD operations: create, read, update, and delete. It would handle. It's going to contain those logic implementation that would fetch using the request and response here. All those request and response, everything will be in my controller folders, right? I'll also create another folder call it uh, routes, right? So this is basically going to contain all the routes related for my endpoints for the models, right? For the controllers. So the flow is from the models to the controllers to the routes. And from the routes, finally goes to the index, right? Starting point. So front end, when the front end sends a request to the backend, it goes to the through the index.js. Then from the index.js, it goes to the route. From the routes to the controllers, from the controllers to the models, and like that. We might not understand it now, but with time, I'm coming. Hold on. All right. All right. Thank you. So welcome back. So you notice when I install the packages, the npm init, and I installed them, everything. You saw this now. This, if you're connected to your Git, you would see this 1K. So all these now we have over 1,000 files that we don't need, and of course, GMTT wants us to host this project on Git. We don't want to push this lots of file, like we don't want to push it, this node, this is here, this node modules folder. We don't want to push it. It will remain in our local machine. We don't need to push it to the GitHub, right? So how do we um, make sure that whenever we push what we have done to GitHub, it doesn't include these node modules? So um, there's what we call gitignore. Gitignore is a file, it's a Git file that um, ignores certain files we choose to, so that when we push, we don't include that files that we have included in the file, right? So I'm going to create it. It will be in the root folder. Whenever I say root folder, the root folder is this Taskmaster. Taskmaster is the root folder. So just take note of that. Taskmaster is the root folder. That's where I'm going to create the git ignore. So I will create the file .git ignore. So .git ignore is the file. Now I don't want these node modules to be there, so I'll just include it here, node modules. So once I do that, it hasn't been included. Once I do that, you see that the 1,000 are just left with 4 changes, meaning it has ignored the node modules folder, which I do not need in the GitHub, but it has to be in my local machine, right? Cool. So let's proceed now. Close that out. Certain files that needs to be in my index.js. So first thing first will be what will it be? It's going to be how will I even start this stuff now? How am I going to start it so it doesn't confuse anyone? Hmm. Um, 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 just let me just set up the index.js. I think that's what I would do. So what I'll do first is I'm going to include the .env, right? So purpose of .env config, it's more like it's loads environment variables from an .env file into the process.env. Might sound confusing, right? But here is the gist. This package we installed, I want to go and explain it, right? this package we installed, right? It has, there's a reason for this, right? Now, in authentication, right? When authenticating a user at a backend, we use two things to authenticate. We use either cookies or we use JWT web token, right? Now, this JWT web token, we need a key that will be, there is a key, this key will be used to authenticate a particular user, right? To use the application. But we need to store this um, token somewhere in the backend, right? So that whenever a user needs to sign up, that backend key will be used to authenticate that particular user, right? So imagine it, definitely that JW that token is very, very sensitive, right? It's very sensitive. So for an information that is sensitive as that, I don't want to just expose it like that, right? Definitely I'm going to push this to GitHub, right? I don't want to um expose that sensitive token to the public. No, definitely if you push your work to GitHub, everybody is going to see what you have done. And imagine someone having access to that token, that person would definitely deal with you, like it's going to mess up your application, right? So there are information that are very sensitive in the backend. That is why they are provided a means to store such sensitive information, and there is a file that is responsible for keeping such sensitive information, and the name of that file is .env .env, right? .env is a file that we use to store those sensitive information. Hold on, I'm coming. All right. So .env is a file responsible for that. All right. Sorry for that distraction. So now I have to create the .env. So to do that, as usual, it has to be in this backend folder, right? So highlight on it, then .env. So I've created the environmental file, the .env. So any sensitive information, I don't need to expose it. Like all these folders that are being exposed like this, they are not that sensitive. But sensitive information like maybe password or tokens, right? Or even your database link, you don't need to expose it here, because once you expose it here and you send it to GitHub, someone can see it and use that to attack you, right? Good. So let's proceed. All right, so let's just create it there and leave it for now, right? Now, if knowing that this file will keep all my sensitive information, like I said earlier, when I'm pushing to GitHub, I do not want to push this .env along. Let it remain in my local machine. Let it remain in my local machine. So I don't want to include it there with the files that will push into my GitHub. So what I would do, like you've remembered, I'll go to my git ignore and also include that .env. Bam. So once I've done that, if I git push all these files, this env will prevent this git ignore rather will not would hide this it.env, meaning it's not going to be pushed to the GitHub, right? Just take note of that. Okay. Now, let's move over to the dependencies as I was explaining .env, right? Now, the reason for this .env, right, like I said, it helps to keep sensitive information, right? The .env. So sensitive information includes the database credentials or API keys, right? Out of our code base. This is our code base. So this env, to reiterate, it's whatever sensitive information that we have, we don't need to put them here, right? It shouldn't be part of the code base. It should be inside this env, right? Cool. And it makes it more secure and flexible. So, but now there will be a scenario whereby in our code base we would want to access the env, we want to access the variable inside the env, right? There will be cases whereby when we are implementing, when we are writing our code, we need the variable in the env in order to complete or implement a logic, right? That is where .env comes in. .env makes it possible to access our hidden file. It helps us to access our hidden variables, right? Without this .env, it won't be possible to access the variable here. So .env makes it possible to access the variables in our env. Just take note of that, right? Knowing fully well that our index.js is the starting point, right? I want to set up my .env. I want to set it up, right? Good. So setting it up first, I create the variable constant. By now, we all know what constant means, right? const, that's right, constant, const.env equal to require. So when you want to, okay, let me just write everything out. Require .env. Cool. Now, we have actually installed some packages, right? These are the packages that has been installed when we did the npm install, right? Now, there is a package, right? So if you check now, if you go down, let's see the .env now. See, this is the .env. This is the .env package we have installed, right? Now, I want to use it in my code. I have already installed it, but I need to use it in my code. So there is a keyword that makes it possible to get or maybe require. I require something now. Maybe let's say the live example is in your house now. You have food stuff, there is food, there's everything, but for you to get the food, you need to ask, right? You need to ask for it. So it's the same way in the backend, in the same way in programming, right? You have installed all the packages. Now I want to use one of the package for my code. So I just use, there's a keyword that does that, that helps you to get a portion of that whole packages, and that is called require. So first of all, you create the variable equal to require, means give me this particular part of the whole package that has been installed. I want to make use of .env, which is this .env. Yeah, right? Which is this. We are good. Now, I've created the variable. So after creating the variable, what's next? I have to um, activate it. Yeah, I have to activate it, or to load the environment variables from the .env file into this index, right? So to activate it or load it, you call the variable name .env dot config now. So if you read this documentation, it says it loads the .env file contents into process.env by default. If .env underscore key is present, it smartly attempts to load encrypted .env fold file contents into process.env. So by doing this .config, right, by doing this now, you have already loaded every you have loaded every variable that is located in the .env. You have loaded it, right? Fine, just one step at a time. Thank you. All right. Next is to create to import express. That's the next step. We need to import express, right? So why do we need to import express? Express, like, it's the core framework for building the server and handling requests. Express is responsible for handling requests sent from the front end to the back end. Without express, we won't be able to handle those requests and response. So we need to set up express in our backend, right? Okay. So first thing first, all right, create a folder, the variable name cons express equals to, now express is among those package that was installed, right? If you check here, scroll down, you see it here, this express is part of the package. Now I want to use express in my code, so I just say require express, and that's it, right? Now we have gotten it into our code. Let's proceed. Let me use comments. So set up the .env, right? Then set up express. Okay. All right. Next is next will be what do you call port, right? Next is going to be the port. So port now is like, it determines the port on which the server will listen, right? Okay, let's okay, this is a domain, right? This is a domain. Let's choose this. This is a domain, right? But whenever we are working on our local machine, there is an assigned port given to us that will be used to run our code, right? It can be port 300, 3000, port 4000, 5000. So the backend has to have that port that the front end needs to connect. It's through that port the front end will connect to, right? Good. It's a number. Okay. Might be confusing, but with time, get used to it. All right. Everyone has their preference anyways. So for me, I like including that port number. I like putting it in my env. I like putting it in my env. You can put it outside, you can put it inside, but I would put it inside. I'll put it in my index, right? I'm going to put it in my index. I want to show us how the .env is going to work. Assuming I don't want to expose my port, right? Assuming I don't want to expose my port number, right? It has to be in my .env. So how am I going to go about that, right? How will I do that? How am I going to do that? It's simple. I would go to my .env, create a folder. It has to be in capital letter. Port equal to maybe 4001. That's just it. My port is 4001. I've created this port number here, right? So whenever I'm pushing it, this is not seen in the public. Nobody knows. Maybe someone wants to access my backend, right? The person needs the port in order for him or her to access my backend. But now I have hidden it to make sure my backend is safe. So in case somebody wants to maybe target my port or my domain or my everything, it's not going to work because I have already hidden this here, right? Okay, so this is it. Like I said, how am I going to access the variable? Let me split this into two. Let me split this into two. So this is my .env. I want to use it here, right? So first of all, I'm going to cost port equal to you can say your port can be 4000, right? I can actually, this means I'm exposing it in my code. But peradventure I don't want to expose it, right? I don't want to expose the port. I want to make use of this one here. How do I access my environment variables? How do I access this port, right? This key value. How do I access it? It's simple. I'll just call in process dot process.env. With this process.env, this process.env makes it possible to get every key in our environment file. With this, I can get any variable in it, right? So process.env I'll call the name, the key, right? Once I get this key, automatically it gets the value. So I don't need to call the value, I just need the variable name. So PORT. So I've gotten this, right? That's it. But there are times when maybe there are times when you push the code, right? You have pushed the code, and maybe your friend clones that code to his local machine. And obviously, he or she will not have this env, except you give it to them. You just tell them, hey guy, create env and copy this and paste, right? So what if you don't do that and the person runs the code and notice there is an error because the person does not have this env that has this 401, right? So now, because of cases like that, we usually put, in case the env is not in that person's local machine, run this port number. You can say let it run 3000, right? Let it run port 3000, assuming let it run port 3000 if this is not there, if the env.env file is not there. Let it run this. Okay, right. So set up the port. All right. progress. Now, next will be our database. I have to set up my database. This might be tricky, but just follow along. So I'm kind of using standard way. I know on a norm I can I can all these folders here, all these models, controllers, all they will definitely have files. It's very possible that all those files can be in one file, but if they are in one file, you notice that you have over 1,000 lines, like 1,000 lines of code, which is what as a programmer we try to avoid. So we just try to there's what we call separation of concern, right? Separation of concern. Every file that has to do with models, create a folder for it. Put that files that is related to models in that models folder. Any file that is related to request and response that has implementation for request and response, create a folder called controllers. Let those requests and response be in that controllers folder. Then any routes, let it be in this route folder. Then this index will be more like the connection, connecting these controller models routes together. You might not understand, but just flow along with time. Yeah. So the setup for our database, it's straightforward, right? Straightforward. So this is how I set up my database. First, this is my backend folder. I create a folder, call it config. So this config is like configuring my database, my any configuration, whether JWT or Firebase or DB Connect and the likes. So config, and inside this config, I'm going to create my DB Connect JS, right? So I'll call it dbcon.js, right? dbcon.js. So first of all, create my mongoose variable goose equal to require, we all know this, mongoose, right? So this is it. Then cons connect db equal to now anything that has to do with database, right? It's asynchronous. It's an asynchronous process. So we need to create an asynchronous function that handles any database requests, right? So that's why async, then anonymous function equal to, then we need to let's call in the function mongoose, the name. It has various function, right? Mongoose dot connect, mongoose dot connect something mercy da, 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 da. Wait, I need to await this. Okay, mongoose, something wrong. Connect db async. All right, so yeah, this is an has to be, yeah. All right, cool. So we have this await mongoose dot connect. What are we connecting to? We want to connect to our database, right? I will provide us with this my database key, right? I'm going to provide us with it. I don't want to expose it in this video. I don't want to expose it here, but I'll provide you. I think after now, we won't be seeing this environment variable, but how it works is this. That's database address, right? That database address. This is how we do it. It's sensitive, so I just create the key variable data database underscore URI. I can call it URI URL, right? Equal to, this can be the address of the database. This is it. So now, how do I get this address? It's the same flow. I call in what? Process.env dot what? Database underscore URL. That's all. And it does that, right? Like I said, this is not it though. I don't want to expose my key. So I'm going to pause this video, put it the right one, and I won't expose this because this video is going to go public, right? So yeah, I'll provide the address in the group, right, in case you want to try it out. All right, so welcome back. I have done that. I've actually done that. One thing you should know that when fetching from the database, there will be an error, right? There's going to be an error. And the scenario whereby fetching the data from the database, yours, it's something happens, right? And when that thing happens, now what happens? Your application crashes or it just stops working. And you kind of wonder like, why did my application stop? Like what's going on, right? It could be due to network. So we need to handle such scenarios whereby when a user is fetching from the database or trying to get an information, if there's a network failure or something, we need to catch the error and return it back to the user so the user would read it and know what to do next, right? So that's where try and catch comes in. Try catch. So try catch makes that possible, whereby this can be in our try. So if there's any error, the application will not just stop. It's the catch will catch that error and return it back, return the response back to the front end, right? So try catch. So this is it. So this our await. This is awaiting will be in the try. It's going to be here, right? So if there's any error, we need to send it back, right? We need to send it back. But for now, we just console log it. Let me just console log to know what the error is. As a programmer, you would make use of console log to check what's really going on and everything. We'll all see that play out, right? So console log this error. Okay, console log the error. Now, one thing you should know is this. I have created this file dbcon.js, right? I've created this connect db. Meanwhile, meaning that somewhere in the code, this service, this function will be needed. This function, like from our knowledge of function, it performs tasks, right? This function will be needed somewhere in the code. We have actually created it, but it will be used somewhere, right? So we need to make this ready for usage. Like you don't just create it. It's a different way. You don't just create it and leave it. You need to make it ready to be used elsewhere in the code. And there's a keyword responsible for that, and you call that module dot export, right? So module dot export takes care of that, right? Oh. So module dot export takes care of that. Module dot export equal to connect db. So with this, if you don't put this, you will look for this code, you will not see it. You will look for this function, you're not going to see it, right? We will see how that plays out. Don't worry, you're going to see how everything plays out. Let me just comment this out, right? Now I've created the connection, right? Now I need to use it here. I need to connect to this index.js, right? So, right, consum connect db, the name. Let me just give it capital letter equal to require. Now I need to require that. I need to get that function, right? I need to get that function. So how do we do it? We go now. My database is called my MongoDB. It's connected. This is another topic on its own. So I don't want to really treat this, right, because of time. All you need is just the link to my database, and that's all. You can do your testing and everything. So I need to link, I want to get the function inside this file, right? Right, I need to get the function inside this file. So I will, it's currently in this branch, right? It's currently in this config file. So I enter here, then db connect. Right? Now I've gotten the function inside this, right? That's it. Okay. Don't worry, soon we'll know why the error is not going to pop up now, but sooner or later. Let's proceed. Okay. So after creating it, you need to call it, right? So we call it connect db. So now you have called it. This is now connecting to the db, to the database, right? All right. All right, so next is to Mongoose. Now I want to connect to the port. Yeah, I need to connect to the port. So Mongoose dot connection. Mind if you have any question, just drop it on the, I might not read everything, but as you're watching the video, you're not clear, just drop it on the comment section. Thank you. Once, add a one-time listener function for the event name. All this, but just follow this. With time, you get to understand this. Once, right? Once open should be open, right? Okay. And okay. I want to be seeing that it has been connected to the DB. Once I see it in my console, then I know it has been connected. So I need to check that console.log connect to MongoDB. All right. Now, what next now? So this message is more like going to pop up in your console saying that we're connected to your database, right? Okay. Sorry, there is something that I missed. Like something that I missed. Express, like I said, Express is responsible for the request and response and everything, right? So we'll be making use of this Express a lot, right? So I wouldn't want to use the same name. You can go ahead to use it though, but just for code readability, right? I need to use a name, a variable name that is like unique or something. I prefer using app, like app now. More like app stands for application, right? Application would like, yeah, it stands for application. So yeah. So this app has many functions, right? If you check now, app dot, it has many functions. It has app dot, has so many functions, right? Cool. I just prefer using app because from this app I will gain access to the different methods or functions. Okay. So from here now, I need to listen to the port, right? I need to listen to the port. Just the day that I waste on the waste, on the waste, on the waste. So after connecting to your Mongo DB, I need to wait for the MongoDB connection to open. Then once it opens, the server starts running, right? So the reason for this is that to ensure that database is connected before starting the server to avoid potential runtime errors, and it checks guarantees that the application is ready to handle requests with a working database connection. So the reason for this setup is to connect to our database and to inform us that our database is already connected, and now telling us to continue our activity, right? So this setup is like letting us know fully that our database is connected. That's what I'm trying to do here, right? So in summary, this setup prioritizes security, maintainability, and scalability, allowing the flexible configuration and to secure API access, right? Now I want to bring that app.use. They call it app.use, yeah, app.listing, yeah. App.listing, app.listing. Yeah, documentations here. So app.listing starts a server listening for connection, right? A net.server can be a TCP or an IPC server, depending on what it listens to. Okay. This function is asynchronous. When the server starts listening, the listening event will be emitted, right? The last parameter callback will be added to a listener for the listening events, the all listing method can take a backlog parameter and everything. So all these are documentation to go through, right? Right. So app.listing, what are you listening to? You're listening to the port, right? That was, which is this port here, right? Port, then it takes another function. It takes the port number, server.listing, right? It takes the port number, then it takes the host name, which is it's not important, right? It takes the backlog, then it takes the listening, which is a callback function, right? So function, I want it to tell me this when it has been connected fully, right? Console.log console.log. This is a backtick, yeah. Server running on port running on port. Okay, then close it. So after doing this now, what's the next thing after doing this? After doing this, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Mosquito, premium mosquito, yeah, mosquito. What's the next thing after doing this is to connect, right? To connect it. What is this? What is this? What is this? What did I do now? Yeah. People want to mess me up. Ah. What are these people up to now? Yes. I forgot something. Yeah, I forgot something. That's true. This is like setting up our mongoose, right? This, yeah, that's true. But I've just created all the variables here, then start calling their methods. Yeah. Okay. Let me do that here. Let me do it here. So call this creating the mongoose, right? The mongoose variable, calling the mongoose package, then calling the connection method. Yeah, to connect it. Right. Next is to, I think is to run it. So I'll go to my terminal, do npm nodemon. I think it's nodemon. I'll use nodemon index. Crashed. Connect db is not a function. Let's try and figure out that. Connect db is not a function. 14 line. Okay, this is how we debug, right? Whenever you see an error like this, try to read it through. You don't just skip, try to read it. Type error. ConnectDB is not a function. The first line will tell you the location of where that error is happening, which is this index.js, line 14. So let's go to our line 14. Connect DB. You see that error? It's because we have not ready this function for export. This is it. This is the usefulness of this. Just hold on. Let's read it through. ConnectDB is not a function because we have not made it a function by exporting it. Right? you don't export it, it's not a function. Every function you create has to be exported. Yeah. So let's uncomment this, and I think that error will pop up. It's loading. App.listening is not a function. App.listening is not a function. So what we need to do is to do the same thing. Module.export for our function. Yeah, I just need to do it. Module.export equal to app, right? So let's see. This thing connect then. Okay, it's not a function. Index.js, line 19 again. Line 19, app.listing is not a function. Why? Why is it not a function? So what is it telling me? This is connect to DB. This first one, it showed app.listen is not a function. Line 19, 9. Let me comment that first. Let's see what happens. All right, so it's connecting, but we need that connection to the port, right? We need it to connect to the port. I'm very sure it's one kind of smallish error, sure. Alright, one kind of small error too. So what is the issue? Okay. Port. If I have issues like this is how I debug. Welcome to my wall. I wouldn't want to waste my time. Yeah, I would have paused this, but I want to show you guys how I do my own debugging. So I love ChatGPT. ChatGPT, come here. So I can say if this is the error I'm encountering that says app is not a function, all I'm going to do is come here and say from the, I would first post my index, right? Paste it, right? Paste it. Then I would say from my file above, I am having this error. Then paste it. All right. Enter. Countering where it's not recognized is likely due to how you require and initialize express. The error occurs because you are requiring express in an incorrect way. In your code, you're using cons app equal to require express, but require express actually returns a function which you need to call in order create in order to create an express application instance. Correct code is this. First of all, you create a variable, right? Const express equals to require this. Then you now call the app which activates the express that was created, right? So that was the issue. So that was the issue I had earlier. So first of all, I create it express equals to this, then I call it direct here express. Okay. Right, express. So by doing this, that takes care of that. If I go to my UI, Ula, we are connected server running on port 401. 401. I would have exposed this my database. So if I expose my database, this env, because there's something I need to show you. This is my database. Sure, this is my database. No. Let me just leave it. Or I want to check something in my database. I would pause it and I'll come back again. All right, so that is that. We have succeeded in connecting to our database. Connect to database. All right. Connect to database. All right. So this is not needed actually. It's not needed actually. That is not needed actually. Because this is already the index, like the index. It's not, some other code will not need this for any function or any stuff here. So yeah, but in case it's needed, then have a way to handle that. All right, so the video just connecting to the database. So tomorrow will be more entity relation models, getting our model. This is relating to which one would use the whiteboard to know how to go about it.